and welcome to Channel A News, your local alien news station. Just this morning, we made an amazing discovery. We have found a new life-supporting planet named Earth, which is currently in its Middle Ages. Now we will send you off to Coots, our reporter in the field. Hi Coots, where are you on Earth?
Hello Zoltor, I am currently in the region known as East Asia. This place is a literal gold mine of information. For instance, there is a Sui dynasty in China. This dynasty ruled from 681 to 618 CE. This dynasty is famous for its ruthlessness and violence among its population. Another accomplishment of theirs was they built the Grand Canal, which connected the northern and southern regions of their country. So a major city in China was Hangzhou. This was a very big trading city in southern China. It was a big trading city because it was located at the very bottom of the Grand Canal. Later, the Zhang dynasty, which lasted from 960 to 1279 CE, also prospered in China. This dynasty was responsible for expanding the scholarly gentry class in China and also giving out more education, allowing for higher passing rates in the civil service exam. This growth in the scholarly gentry class meant that they were filing more and more into military roles, which meant that they had a weaker military, which led to their inevitable demise.
Wow, that's fascinating. What other strange regions are there on Earth?
Well, there's a whole slew of them, such as this one area called the Middle East. So here in the Middle East, there is a prophet named Muhammad who is preaching the word of Allah or God. His religion, named Islam, spread rapidly across the Arabian Peninsula, in particular of two main cities of Mecca and Medina. This religion later encompasses all of the Middle East and some other parts of the world as well. Another big part of Islam was Sufism. Sufism was a sect of Islam that was devoted to getting close to Allah. These guys were a main part of spreading Islam outside of the Arabian Peninsula. Sufis would reject earthly pleasures in order to get close to heaven. So later the Abbasids came to power and they were one of the main ruling dynasties of the Islamic world. These guys were centered on the city of Baghdad in Mesopotamia. So these guys focused on trade, and they revived the Silk trade to China, to Europe. And they also heavily expanded Muslim knowledge in several fields such as mathematics and astronomy.
Wow, that is some truly fascinating stuff. These humans sure are weird. Now I'm sure our 3,400,876,203,000 viewers would love to hear about some more regions on this Earth.
Well, there is this area called Eastern Europe. Let's take a look. So here in Eastern Europe, I am in a country called the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire had a great period of expansion underneath Justinian's rule. Justinian was a just ruler who expanded many things in the Byzantine Empire, such as the Roman law code, and he also built magnificent structures like the Hagia Sophia, an Orthodox church. He also expanded the Byzantine territory greatly, later encompassing the city of Rome. Iconoclasm was a dividing subject in the Byzantine Empire. Some Byzantines believed that you should not have religious figures be shown, which is basically what iconoclasm is, but some believe that you still should. This was a very dividing subject, with some emperors taking sides, such as Leo III. He believed in iconoclasm and he destroyed many religious pictures.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a new segment on our show where we'll be interviewing some Earthlings. Now I'm going to bring in a man named Justinian from the Byzantine Empire. Let's try that again.
Hi, I'm Elkrod, and I traveled through the future, and I found this thing that the humans call the Pahone!
Oh, he's early. Let's try that again. Hello, Justinian.
Whoa, oh my gosh.
You're on Channel A News.
Channel A News? Wow, that sounds great.
You're gonna ask you some questions.
Alright.
So, first of all, how do you rule the Byzantine Empire?
I ruled the Byzantine Empire through an organized law code called the Corpus Iuris Civilis, which is my law code called Justinian's Code, for short. I also expanded the border of my empire to new heights, so it's bigger than ever.
That's really interesting. So, what is exactly this Justinian's law code?
It's a reorganized version of the old Roman law codes. I foresee that it will last in Europe for the next several centuries. I even have an excerpt of my law code that I would like to share with you guys.
Interesting.
Justice is the constant and the perpetual wish to render every one his due. The maxims of law are these: to live honestly, to hurt no one, and to give every man his due.
Very interesting. Well, I hope you enjoy your trip back to the brainwasher. Okay, now we'll send you off with a quick word from our sponsors.
Have you ever seen this weird animal down on Earth? I haven't either. It's called the camel. Have you ever wondered if you could ride said camel? I haven't either. I'm Ilkrails from Saddle Wow, and we have just discovered the camel saddle. It comes with a 4-story hotel, built-in sauna, and back scratcher. Just kidding, its only use is to ride the camel. I'm sorry. There are different versions though, with many pros and cons relating to your field of view and control. We have the South Arabian, Northern African, and Somali camel saddle. Please buy our newest and least tested product, the camel saddle.
Camel saddle only sold by certain retailers, not available in any alien retail store, camel not included.
Now that we've returned, we welcome back Coots in the field. Where are you now, Coots?
Hello, I am now in Western Europe, totally different from Eastern Europe. So now we are here in the French kingdom, which was united underneath King Clovis, who started to convert the region into Christianity. Some kings followed, but some important ones were Charles Martel, who kicked the Muslims out of France, and stopped their incursions into Western Europe. And later was also Charlemagne, who started a mini Renaissance and conquered a lot of Europe before being crowned Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope in 800. So in Western Europe, feudalism was a main system of government here. It was a system of obligations between the vassal lords and their overruling kings. These vassals would be obligated to send tax and troops to their liege in return for payment. These vassal lords would rule over a manor system with serfs, which were peasants that were tied to the land. These serfs would work for the manors, and in return would be given protection by the lord. These manors were entirely self-dependent and defendable. Lastly, in Western Europe, people from Scandinavia started to set out from their homeland and search for riches and a place to live. These people went by many names, such as Norse or Viking. The Vikings would find cities, raid them, and take their loot. The Vikings were so good at sea travel that they discovered many places, such as Greenland and North America. Their ships, called the Longship, were extremely adept to traveling the high seas.
Wow, these regions keep on getting more and more interesting. I think that those European places are pretty similar. They both have a religion called Christianity, but Western Europe seems to be more divided under that feudalism thing than Eastern Europe. Now I want to see some more of East Asia. Hello, I'm in a little country called Japan. Japan has always had a fear of China since it's a global power, so Prince Shotoku Taishi put some reforms to make the Japanese government more like China's, including putting an emperor in Japan. In 646, there were Taika reforms in Japan, which basically tried to weaken the power of the aristocracy. Unfortunately, in 794, the aristocracy got too much power, and Japan returned to a decentralized form of government. And it had a form of feudalism, which is pretty similar to Western Europe's feudalism that we already talked about, but a little bit different. Eventually, there's a militaristic clan called the Minamoto clan that conquered Japan and replaced the emperor with a shogun. Korea had a more straightforward relationship with China since it was right on its border. And so they had many similarities, including Korea's capital city being modeled after China and having China's writing system. One difference is that in China, the land-owning aristocracy had less power than in Korea. Unlike Korea and Japan, Vietnam was very against assimilating Chinese culture and tradition. In fact, they're so against it that they had some military campaigns against China and had a victory in 938. One way that they were different was that Vietnamese families are nuclear families instead of China's huge extended families. Despite this, Vietnamese schools were actually taught in Chinese instead of Vietnamese. Since we were last here, there's been some changes in this region. For example, Japan and Vietnam have started to drift away from China and form their own identities. Meanwhile, China's power and strength still remains unchecked.
It's ingenious what these humans can do. Now I really want to see what's happening over in the Middle East and North Africa.
Hello, I'm in Africa, and I'm going to be talking about the Bantu group of people. The Bantu are an ethnic group of people in pre-colonial Africa, and they're responsible for many advances in technologies. The actual migrations happened because of overpopulation and overuse of land. They cultivated yams and bananas, and their use of iron technology made them highly advanced in warfare. Their societies were also matrilineal. In North Africa, the Sub-Saharan trade network was very important to everyday life and trading with the rest of the world. It helped spread Islam to Sub-Saharan Africa. The main items traded were gold and salt. And the three main kingdoms in Africa were Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. At the center of this trading network was a very important city called Timbuktu. Timbuktu was a center of learning in the Islamic world and had many universities where scholars traveled to. Books were also very valuable and often cost more money than the other goods there. So more trade was happening along the Swahili coast. The Swahili coast was a group of city-states, and they're very syncretic and had many influences from Arabia, Persia, and India. They also were a major factor in the Indian Ocean trade. They traded stuff like elephant ivory and gold for stuff like porcelain and cotton. Since we were last here, Islam is still a major factor in the Middle East. But what's something that's different is that Islam has begun to spread all across Eurasia from North Africa to South Asia.
Fascinating! I can't believe just how similar these human societies are. The Middle East and East Asia are very similar, besides having East in their name. For instance, they both seem to put a high emphasis on learning. But East Asia doesn't seem to have the popular religion Islam. Now, we're going to introduce you to our second very special guest, local madman and chronicler from North Africa, Ibn Battuta. Hello and welcome back to our lovely interview set. So today we have another very special guest, Mr. Ibn Battuta. I shall get him here.
Hey, no snapping needed. I'm here.
Oh, okay. This is new. And okay, so Mr. Ibn Battuta, we have some very special questions.
Alrighty, let's get to these questions.
Alright, so what did you think about the Trans-Saharan people?
Well, they do follow Allah, but they don't do it correctly. I found that they combine many of their heretic beliefs, like women having lots of rights, with the beautiful religion of Islam.
I guess that's bad.
Very bad.
I'm sorry, but second question. How many trade routes have you traveled on in your entire life?
I've traveled on many trade routes in my life, but the two main trade routes I've traveled on were the Trans-Saharan trade route and the Indian Ocean trade route, where I got experience on what was going on in the mythical region of China.
Well, that's very cool, and I hope that was very entertaining for our viewers, and I'm going to send Mr. Ibn Battuta here back home.
Hey, I just knocked myself out.
Well, that's never happened before. So, as our interview concludes, hope you enjoy a word from our sponsors.
Do you like reading? I don't, but I think some of you might. The Chinese down on Earth have invented an early way to quickly produce books. I'm Ilkroads from Book Wow, and I am here to tell you about the woodblock printing press. This machine can produce books faster and more efficiently than by hand. So many books can be produced with this machine that it makes the phrase, when in China, print so many books that you encourage learning and create an entire class of smart people who work in your government make sense.
Hope you enjoy that word from our sponsors, and welcome back to Channel A News. Now let's go check up with what Zoltar is doing in Eastern Europe.
Hello, I'm back in Eastern Europe, and I'm going to be talking about the Kievan Rus. The Kievan Rus were a collection of city-states located north of the Byzantine Empire. One important city was the city of Novgorod. It was a massive trading center that connected the Black and Baltic Seas. It also had many different ethnic groups such as Germans and Slavs. The Kievan Rus were friends of the Byzantines, but they eventually got taken over by the Mongols, which cut them off from the rest of the world. They were allowed to rule their own country, but with supervision from the Mongols. And eventually, they won their freedom. One important thing to the Rus was the Cyrillic alphabet. The Cyrillic alphabet was created by a Greek missionary, Cyril. His intent was to use it to spread the word of God, and the Rus eventually adopted it and spread it to other Slavic people. The Cyrillic alphabet had many important uses to the Rus. The people in Eastern Europe were Christian, but not Catholic Christian like Western Europe. Instead, they were something called Orthodox Christians. Orthodox Christianity was first created by the Byzantines, and then were spread to the Rus. This form of Christianity did not have a pope, and the church was completely separated from the state.
There you go.
Since the last time we were here, Byzantium was conquered by the Ottoman Turks in 1453. Meanwhile, Orthodox Christianity has still been going strong in all of Eastern Europe.
Well, it seems like there is a lot of stuff to learn about Eastern Europe, but now I am a little bit more interested in the Western half. Zoltar, show me some more of Western Europe, now!
Here I am for my last visit in Western Europe, and I'm going to be talking about England. So England was conquered by William the Conqueror in 1066, and he instated a new government that tried to be more like other European states like France. Eventually, the nobles became unhappy with the king's rule and forced King John to sign the Magna Carta in 1215, which gave away some of his power to the people. Eventually, England fought a war against France called the 100 Years' War in 1337 to 1453, ending in a French victory. The Christians had a war against the Islamic world called the Crusades. The Crusades began because the Christians wanted to take back the Holy Land, known as Jerusalem, from the Muslims. The First Crusade in 1095 was successful for the Christians. They took back the Holy Land, but they later lost it in later crusades. In the Fourth Crusade, the Christians sacked Constantinople before getting to Jerusalem. And the Crusades led to increased exchange of ideas between Christians and Muslims. Elsewhere, a place called Italy had a rebirth of learning and knowledge called the Renaissance. In the Renaissance, many artists created new artwork and many authors created new works of literature. This occurred right after the bubonic plague, and so people needed something good in their lives. The Renaissance was very important in both Western and Eastern Europe. Since we were last here, Western Europe has had some changes. Feudalism has been on the decline, and lords have been losing power while kings have been gaining power. However, Roman Catholicism has still remained strong in this region.
Now I have a third and our last very special guest today, Mr. Charlemagne. Hello, Mr. Charlemagne.
Whoa! What?
We have some questions for you.
Okay.
So, first off, how did you encourage learning in your realm?
I don't know. I started at several schools that were run by priests in my castles. It was run by priests since they were people that had the most books.
Alright, second off, so what areas did you conquer when you were during your military expeditions?
Well, outside of France, I conquered many areas, such as Germany and Italy. In fact, I conquered so much, I was crowned Emperor of all Romans by the Pope.
That's very interesting. Now, I hope you enjoyed our tour of the set, and now we're going to send you back off to the Mind Watch.
What? No!
Well, that was our show.
Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for more updates on this strange new world.
This was Channel A News, and we hope you have a great night.